My name is Samuel Kwashi, and I'm the CEO of Elegant Homes.
My name is Dorothy. I am the Executive Director of Elegant Homes and General Construction Limited, and we are currently located at Katamanso of the Adenta Dodowa Road.
Want to get out of a job you hate? Did you know you can become a DevOps engineer and earn an average salary of £75,000? You will be highly paid. You can work from home and spend more time with your family, and your work will be respected. Train with Cloud Rock Academy to become a DevOps engineer in just 6 months. Interested? Watch our free on-demand training to learn more.
Have you been to Aqua Safari lately? Let me share my experience with you at the new Aqua Safari Resort. When you arrive, you're greeted by warm smiles and introduced to your 24-hour butler who already has your itinerary sorted. Enjoy water sports activities like jet ski rides, kayaking, water sliding, flyboarding, and castnet fishing. You can even have your lunch here on the boat cruise. Experience horseback riding, tennis, and some golfing amongst a host of other activities. Let the tour guides take you through the sceneries of the Volta River, the mangrove forest, the friendliness of the animals, local and exotic birds, while you pet and feed them. You can have this large space for your conferences, corporate retreats, and so many activities as part of the package. We chose to have our breakfast with a beautiful sunrise right in front of our cabin. We had an amazing experience, and I can't wait to return for more.
Visit Aqua Safari Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
Hello, this is Lawyer Wisdom of Wismart Solicitors. Join me this and every Friday on OT TV from 8 to 9 p.m. for all your UK immigration matters. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Observe Memamo Ajo Emamo Aquaba Nenumray at the war about Jumadi. So, said ye, Mima Munyani, Sia, a year, and Grano. As the lawyer Jumadi every Friday, be the February with Lawyer Wisdom. Na Endra, Nene, I been said, you bet twasso, and a lawyer at Twasso Kakra, Nafi afterwards, any general question, be especially a banner. Immigration issues ubisa lawyer or wire crado say ninyina obeyi ano and it means a breakdown with the Lawyer Wisdom from Wismart Solicitors at the air bro nafi ne oni akasa about wills and probate. Lawyer Wisdom memo ajo emo akwa bena yumre bejbedi so
Nana mejo so menso ma wajo ema akwa ba
Nambacho want to say and then you bring
Adum eye
you and right yes shen come between the ase and yes and a beto aso and it any yen say a break crown obesan am a quick summary of the and right yeah na fi what aso the amay na fi yama amanfo kwan especially endra do dona enya kwan some questions ni amakwan no matimi abusa question about wills and probate, then also any general question with regards to UK immigration. Lawyer Wisdom, over to you.
Thank you. It's here for Obia Mamo. Are you on? We just say, are you on? Mama, Well, before before I call the main issue, just a few updates. I'm saying yate about the changes in the financial aspect in terms of the 18,600 everything going on. And yes, we are thinking about the health and care for Mrs. Saya from the 11th of March thereabout. I want to mean almost sponsors, almost dependents, Emma. Well, the information we have is that sir, we health and care worker who UK has to say ọmụ did down no still no and ọmụ was sitting on before you no, they can still continue to bring their dependents to the UK. So that is a good news that those who are already in the UK or those who are already been granted under the existing regime no will no still no, you can be able to bring your dependents to join you in the UK. So that is for your information. So it says care workers and senior care workers can extend their stay with their current employer without having to, even if the employers are not registered with the CQC, that's the Care Quality Commission, they can still continue to apply to bring their dependents to the UK. But if you change work, say, employer from one employer to another, then it means that that new employer must be registered with the CQC. And sana over to me, work to of that employer plus over to me your dependents aba. And to younger UK in the system already, and younger yamaya sitting up before the changes ever, we are still able to bring our dependents from the HC, that is the House of Common Changes, Abano, and to that is for your information, which I think is very, very good. So that is very, very important. Now, the Home Office, their intention and their target was to actually limit the number of probate nearby UK. So by introducing the ban on students from bringing their dependents, and also by introducing the ban of care workers bringing their dependents, they are reducing the total number of dependents to who can come to the UK. They are reducing it by about 300,000 people. They are preventing about 300,000 people from coming to the UK just because they ban students from bringing their dependents and also health care workers from bringing their dependents. So that is what it is. It means that they are banning about, or they are preventing about 300,000 people from coming to the UK, which is their target. Their target of limiting the people from coming to the UK, 300,000. So that is just a few updates for you. And then, of course, the financial requirement for spouses, that is husband and wives, is changing from £18,600 to £29,000 from the 11th of April 2024. And this is the best time for you to make that application to bring your partner to the UK. It's changing from 18,600 to 29,000 pounds. But the question is, Nipa saying enya 29,000 pounds. Some do get it, but not a lot of people can get the 29,000 pounds. So what you can do is either open a second job to add up to near years to say no. And now we are self-employed person in another category. You add your self-employment, the profit you get from there to your earning in the as a PAYE, as an employee, but me then of course but me meet the requirements. And also rental property there, some flats or house are you rented. So whatever money you get from the rental property, together with your additional income from any other source, with the bonus, then of course, I'm meeting the threshold of the 18,000 £600, another £29,000 when that takes effect. So that is what it is. A bit, Obi Bisami last time says, or your pensioner doesn't mean say on to me and worry. And of course, pensioners wait to me and worry. But what is required is that, so make sure Sikana Unyano from either your personal private pension or occupational pension, everything, it can add up to the £18,600 a year or £29,000 if the new rules kick in. So pensioners can marry, pensioners can also bring their spouses. So that is what it is. And then another person asked me, said, what if I am not well? Does that mean say me to me and worry? And again, to me and worry. And so PIP, personal independent payment. Also, no, to me and so now would be a application for we and not open. I actually say over to me. Of course, let your partner come to the UK. In that case, what will happen is you don't have to meet the 18,600, but you have to meet the maintenance threshold. We have maintenance and then we have income level. We have maintenance threshold and the financial requirements. Financial requirements, no, and only 18,600, no, and now near 29,000, no. That is the financial requirements. That is different from the income. That is different from the income threshold, the maintenance threshold. Financial requirement is different from the maintenance threshold. The maintenance threshold, no, I think it's about £87 per a loan parent, and then it's about £77.80 per a child, dependent child. So you multiply the 77 times 80 per child times 4 weeks to get how much you need for the child. And then for the parents, you multiply the £87 per parent times 4 weeks, you get a total. And then you add the child or the children's income requirement to the parents' requirement to get how much we're here to meet the maintenance threshold. So that is what is required. That is totally different from the financial threshold. As for the financial threshold, either 18,600 or £29,000 changes no take effect. So that is what it is, and that is where we are right now. Okay, so I'll go to wills. And you can say about will. I'll summarize it briefly. I understand, and there were quite a few people they didn't put or they couldn't put their questions across. And I will not be too. I'll not take too much time talking, but I'll just quickly summarize and then chip in a few things here and there. Then, so if you have questions, we will respond to it. If there are no questions, then we can say have a good weekend. So, number one, what is a will? What is a will? And right, you can say a will is a legal document that expresses a person's wishes as to how their property is to be distributed after their death, as to which person is to manage the property until its final distribution. And it's who property there na abia who will be this is how you want your will to be, or this is how you want your property to be distributed. Into over yet a legal document which will be at to who I say semeniwa me pese senia me pese ye check me major padiano and ye me pese me ba kojo edges way yaw edinia abansoro na wokumase no yaw enji eno yansu onji near airport residential area no ono so onji ena ama onji near airport hills ano so nti kesa wachi chene se nya wo pese obi obecheno no ansana wo efimo enyese wo fimu we then the laws will take effect. So we kind of say, so it is a legal document which shows how you want your properties to be distributed, how you want it to be done after you have passed away. and who should take charge of these properties until it is finally distributed. And that is what we call a will. Number 2, is it necessary to make a will? Yes. If you don't make a will, you have made a will. If you don't make a will, you have made a will. I will say it again. If you don't make a will, you have made a will that the interstate succession law should distribute your assets the way they like and not the way you like. And it's a one-year will. Invariably, we will say, Emrana work chronomono, Emrana work a country, no, and no, na, I'm fine check, yeah, well said no. And it's a 1% a chrono, and a bino, Emra, and I bet check Uniama, and your woo, one cassa your will, then your woo penano, na omunchana sa, pepe, emo. The next thing is, because say about winner. Obia edging about uwu, yepo, yebeko. One day, if you live your life as if every day is your last, one day you will most certainly be right. If you live every day as if it is your last, one day you will be right, because that will be your last. It's going to happen to all of us. It will happen to me, will happen to you, will happen to all of us. Whether we like it or not, it will happen. Give yourself maybe another 50, 60, 70, 80 years from today. We will not be here. And that is why you need to have a will before you pass. Anyway, let me be said, gentlemen, be a written and name said, who's around pa, who then, who papa, a papa one. Or say, no, I don't think about my grandfather. And I'm say, okay, how about who papa, papa? Or say, of course not. Me papa, how about so if you think about our grandparents, great-grandparents, great-great-grandparents, we have forgotten about them. The same way you and I will be forgotten of very soon. We will all be forgotten of. But the only way your children can think about you or remember you is if you leave something for them that they can point to and say, people fear or the mammy. Major fear or the mammy. One young fear, nobody's going to think or remember you anyway. A brave our brain, it will come to nothing. Sometimes, what to me say, wait here, or you're serious, with the division is about me actually so. Where's the Medimana or about Tom, he said the prodigal son, about this money. So you want your assets to keep going on, and therefore you try to distribute your assets in your will before you pass. So if you don't make a will, you have inadvertently made a will that the interstate succession law should be used in distributing your assets. So that is what it is. Now, we talked about why make a will again. We said if you are unmarried partners, someone worry it, not about what not together, if you're more from what not together for all this year. If there's no will, there is no automatic right set who can follow or not having any of your property or your assets. So that means that there is a need to have a will. If there's no will, there is no guarantee. There is no guarantee that your partner can inherit anything from you if there is death. One partner may create serious financial problems for the other. So that is what we want to avoid. Now, if you have children, you need to make a will so that arrangements can be made for them. If you are single, you can have a will. Repair, change your will. Change your will. Change your will. Change your will. Because if you keep only the first will when you were a bachelor or you were single, and no pet and I will keep here. Say uyiri, woma, and awukunu, any woman, they will have no share in that because at the time now we are the first will no. Now we want our and in your one and no pet and I would admire and I go with my own navy and now work on CV. You see our worry no, we you have to capture them all in your will, and that is why it is important to upgrade or to change your will as you go on. Now, also, so we are winner. You can take into account inheritance. It can reduce the amount of tax that can be paid on inheritance if advice is taken in advance and you make your will with the right information. Let me avoid it or let me reduce the amount of inheritance tax as I said with you. That is also very important. So if your circumstances have changed, it is important that you make a will to ensure that your money and possessions are distributed according to your wishes. For example, if you have separated, your ex-partner now lives with somebody else, you may want to change your will. If you are married or enter into a registered civil partnership, you will make a previous will. This will make a previous will become invalid. Assuming that when you pay one breast relationship now break it down, pay on your Bible floor and if you don't change your will or you don't update your will, well break ego. So as soon as the man moves on, change your will. Or as soon as the woman moves on, she leaves the house or she sacks you out of the house, change your will. And yes, sir, we will know. Now, property, why you know, not on one and go and be enjoying with that young girl or that young man who was not part or intended to be part of your heirs of your property. So when your circumstances change, change your will. That is all I want to say. When your circumstances change, please change your will. Now, what again na udibaka will no? Again, na be part of your estate, you're part of your will. You see, if you have a property, houses, land, businesses, petrol stations, the block factories, pure water, manufacturing factories, you have cars, all of this, please put all of them in your will. Put all of them in your will. That is part of the requirement of the assets that have to form part of your will. So that is that. So properties, homes, businesses, nina will form part of your will. Your pensions, occupational pension, personal pension, all of this should form part of your will. Jewelry, gold chains, gold rings, gold teeth, nina part of your will. Make all part of it. Investments, bonds, premium bonds, bank accounts, savings, etc., etc., shares, and all those things should be part of your will. Capture everything in your will. Clothing and to mark your suits, your coats, all of them should be part of your will. So please take note of that. Now, in your will, you need executors. Remember, say, wo call. Hina and share property until they distribute it. Who is going to be responsible for the estate? Who is going to get a letter of administration before they distribute? And I'm only from the executors. Now, who can be your executors? You can have your friends that you trust, who can be your executors. So, people most commonly appointed as executors are your friends, relatives of friends, relatives of friends. Can a beneficiary of a will also be an executor? That is possible. Yes, I have seen some wills, and typically the beneficiary was also an executor of that will. Solicitors, your lawyer can be an executor. Your accountants can be your executor who act on your behalf. Your banks can also be executors on your behalf. An executor on your behalf, you can appoint two or more executors to act on your behalf. And these are people who have to agree and make sure things go well. You can appoint your pastor, your pastors, your elders, if you trust them or if you believe that they will do what you've asked them to do. Your pastors can be your executor. Public trustee, or in some cases, official solicitor, if there is no one else willing to be able to act on your behalf. Sɛ ohun ana obiara ani hɔ a ɔyɛ willing sɛ ɔno na ɛbɛ distribute asset na, then you can choose a public trustee or someone in the case of official solicitor to be your executor on your behalf when you're passed. So these are some of the important things. Now, it is important to choose executors with considerable care since their job involves a great deal of work and responsibility. Don't just choose anybody because you think that, oh, it's your friend and therefore you can choose them. Be sure they are able and they can be people who will be responsible and do the right thing, not somebody who would just throw your will away and do what they want to do. So be careful who you select. Now, who not to select as an executor? Normally, it's best advised that you select somebody who is within the jurisdiction. Now, sir, who are you here? Who are properties? Who are you here? Who are assets? Now, what are your will? Now, what are selected Ubia or Ghana, sir, or no any executor in the properties in the UK? Of course, the Nippon one visa amba UK ha, obey dang, and I will to me, Abba, Abba, I letter of administration and all those things to act on your behalf. So it is always very advisable that you get somebody who is within the jurisdiction to act on your behalf as an executor. So very, very important. People who are within the jurisdiction who can act on your behalf and act properly in accordance with your wishes. So that is very, very important. Take that into account when you are selecting an executor for your will. So please don't just select because he's been a friend. Also select because that you are sure they are able to perform the duty and do it in accordance with your instructions as in your will. So that is what it is. Of course, don't select an ex-convict, somebody who is an ex-convict. Obi a wako prison, wako that prison, Dano. They are not people you can select or you want to choose to be an executor in your will. So please take that into account when you're selecting an executor. So, requirements for a valid will. And then, well, let me look at making a valid will. Some common mistakes people make in preparing a will, and then I look at the requirements, and then I look at, of course, where to keep your will. Now, some common mistakes in making a will are not being aware of the formal requirements needed to make a will legally valid. The common requirements, you need to have some common principle, basic requirements for a will to be valid. Failing to take into account all the money and property available. How much money do you have? Where is your money being kept? Where is your account? Where is your savings? Your bank details, where are they? Have you collated all your bank accounts? How much money is in them and all of that? Put all of this together before you go ahead with compiling your will. This is very important. People don't take note of this. All the land you have, all the lands you purchase all over the countries and all over the place, please make sure you put all of this together. Failing to take account of the possibility that a beneficiary may die before the person making the will. We will all die, that I have said, but take into account, why do you appoint a 78-year-old person to be your executor if you are 35 years old, 70 years, you are 40 years old? If we should follow the natural course of events, it is expected that the 78-year-old or the 87-year-old person will go before you. So, in that case, somebody who you suspect, or, I mean, you may be wrong in suspecting, but maybe nobody can say, but use your judgment, your right judgment, in determining who should be your executor. Now, if you go select somebody who is far, far, far older, somebody who is 90 years old to be your executor, there is a possibility that they may pass before you, and that can affect the validity of your will. That can make the will have some issues. Now, being unaware of effect of marriage, a registered civil partnership, divorce, or dissolution. Sometimes you have a will. When you divorce, your will is affected. If you register civil partnership, this same sex, gay, lesbian people, if you register civil partnership, your will be affected. Separation, if you separate, it can affect your will, the content of your will. So it is very, very important that you take into account all of this before you make your will, when you're making your will. There is no need to use a solicitor. There is no requirement that you have to use a solicitor to draw up your will or witness by a solicitor. If you wish to make a will, you can do so. However, you should only consider doing this if the will is going to be straightforward. If it's going to be a straightforward will, simple, area, you have one house and you are only giving it to your only son or your only daughter, simple will, don't worry. That's not a problem. You can prepare your own will and it will be legal, it will be valid. But if you are involved in very complex transactions, and of course, it's a business deal, it's a mega business, there are multiple houses and multiple businesses and people are involved, and you think it's going to be complex in distribution, I would advise that that is not a type of will you want to make yourself. It is helpful to get a professional will writer who can prepare your will for you. There are professional will writers, they can prepare your will for you. So it will be very helpful if you can use them. Generally advisable to use a solicitor or to have a solicitor check a will you have drawn to make sure it has the effect you want. This is because it is easy to make mistakes. And if there are errors in the will, this can cause problems after your death. So problems can arise after your death if there are mistakes in the will. I have seen one that the name was spelled wrongly. The name of the child, the intended child, was spelled wrongly. And that created a lot of problems. Instead of A-K-O-S-O-A, it became S-U-A. That U, instead of O, they made it U, created a whole lot of problems because other people were saying the man is referring to another child and not to this particular child. And it created all kinds of things. Enka, or the lawyer be, solicitor be, another be, and obia, originating, that error would not have been there. It wouldn't have created all the problems that resulted from that error. You should remember that a solicitor will charge for the services, of course, for doing a will, and any will writer will charge for their services. It's normally, I think, around 95 pounds, 99 pounds, 100 and something pounds. It might be a little more depending on the complexity of the will that you are drawing. Now, requirements for a valid will. For the will to be valid, it must be made by a person who is 18 years and over, not under 18 years. It has to be 18 years plus, and that is the age requirement. It must be made voluntarily, no pressure, and Sasa Obi putting pressure on you to prepare your will. There should be no pressure on you. It has to be done voluntarily, no pressure on you. Nobody should force you to give this property to them. Nobody should say, this must go to Akosia, this must go to Ya. No pressure on you. If it is constructed or the will is done under pressure, it becomes invalid. If it can be proved that the will was made under pressure, under duress, that will can be challenged and it will become invalid. That is why you must do it when it is not pressured. Another thing that will make a will valid is if you do it whilst you have sanity of mind, you are sane, you have your clear mind, you are not going through mental health issues, but you have clarity of thought, you can think on your feet, you are okay. Let me use the word that way, you are okay. In that case, you can prepare your will. You have sound mind. That means the person must be fully aware of the nature of the document being written. You are fully aware. And yes, but you have no idea what you are writing. So fully aware of the nature of the document being written or signed, and aware of the property and the identity of the person who may inherit it. In other words, when say property we ni owo kokoro bi te no e for James ni ewo la Bawaleshi is going to Andrew, ni ewo Kaswa is going to Antoinette. You know, you are fully aware, you are specific. This is going to this person. You know what you are writing, you know what you are signing, you know who you are giving it to, and you are fully aware that it's going to go to that person, not under pressure or stress or duress. It has to be signed by two witnesses in the presence of the person making the will after it has been signed. So, me will now. Me will no me can't be okay. Me sign in the presence of two witnesses, and it has to be signed by two witnesses also in my presence. So I will sign in the presence of the two witnesses, and they will also sign in my presence for the will to be made valid. Signed by two witnesses, the presence of the person making the will after it has been signed. So I will sign in their presence, and they would also sign in my presence to make the will valid. And these are people who can testify at any point in time that, yes, I made a will, the will is valid, and of course, that is what it is. A witness or a married partner of a witness cannot benefit from the will. So take that. A witness or the married partner of a witness cannot benefit from the will. So if I am making my will and you are my witness, you cannot be a beneficiary, and your wife can also not be a beneficiary of that will, because it can be meant that, or it can be interpreted that you pressured me to prepare the will to favor you. So that we have to bear in mind. A witness or the married partner of a witness cannot benefit from a will. If a witness is a beneficiary, or the married partner of the beneficiary of the partner is a beneficiary, the will is still valid, but the beneficiary will not be able to inherit under the will. So that is what it is. They cannot benefit, they cannot inherit under the will. So in order to avoid that, get neutral people to be the witnesses, and then the beneficiaries can have their right to the will. Though it will be legally valid, even if it is not dated, it is advised to ensure that you put a date. Make sure you put a date. Anybody can later challenge you that we don't know at which point Daddy prepared this will. We don't know whether when it was in the hospital, when he was almost going, or when he was still on his feet, when he had his sanity of mind. That is when he prepared this will. So please make sure that you prepare the will when you are sane and when everything is all done, and get the right people to witness it, and I think it should be fine. So that is, give me a minute. That is what it is. Right. So signed by two witnesses, etc. Where will you keep your will? You can keep it at home, a solicitor or your accountant, at the bank. You can keep this will safe, but make sure it is kept safe somewhere so that you don't get into trouble. Somebody stumble on it, and then they know what who is going to benefit from what, and that can create all kinds of problems for you. So that is that. That is what I want you to all be aware of now. Now, if you don't make a will, if you don't want to make a will, now this is something we also have to be very careful of. Don't attach a piece of paper to the will. We call it custodial. Don't attach something to the will and use a pin, because if you use a pin to hold the will and the pin leaves a mark there, and then later they remove that pin, somebody can challenge the will that there was something in that will that has been removed. Just because that pen has held on to the paper for so long and it has made a mark there, somebody can say there was something else in the will that has been removed, and therefore the will can be challenged. You don't want to put yourself in that situation. Though, as much as possible, don't attach any additional documents possible to the will. Let the will stand on its own without any attachments and papers and paper clips and anything, staples and stuff like that. Please don't do that. Now, if you want to destroy one will, shred it, tear it into pieces, burn it, then it is totally destroyed. That is how you can do that. Now, a person may want to challenge a will because they believe the will is invalid, or they believe they have not been adequately provided for in the will. If the wife thinks that the husband hasn't provided for her adequately in the will, she can challenge the will. And if the husband also thinks the wife hasn't been fair to him in her will, he can also challenge that will. So this is something we have to be mindful of. Now, if you don't make a will, what is the effect? Like I said, the intestate succession rules will take effect, and that would affect you. Are you married? Yes. If your estate is less than 250,000, including your home, your spouse gets everything. So if all the property and everything you have is less than 250,000 pounds, if you have no will, your wife gets everything. If it is more than 250,000, the next thing is, are there any children from this marriage or previous one? If yes, your spouse inherits the 250,000 and life interest in half of the remainder, your children share the rest. So if it is more than 250,000 and you have a wife and children, your wife gets the 250,000 and the rest your children will share. That is the intestate succession law. You don't want your property to be distributed that way. So that is why you have to have a will. If there are no children, are there any parents? If yes, your spouse inherits. If no parents, your spouse inherits everything. Your wife or your husband takes everything. If there are no parents, are there any brothers, sisters, nephews, or nieces? If no, your wife gets 450,000 and half of the remainder, your parents share the rest, etc. So the law says, if yes, this is what happens. If no, this is what happens. Now, are you married? No. Are there any children? If there are children, your estate is shared equally between your children. If there are children, if there are no children, are there any parents? Your estate is shared equally between your parents. If there are no parents, are there any brothers or sisters? Your estate is shared equally between your siblings. If there are no brothers and sisters, are there any half brothers and sisters? Your estate is shared equally between them. If there are no half brothers and sisters, are there any grandparents? Your estate is shared equally between your grandparents. If there are no grandparents, are there any aunties, uncles? Your estate is shared equally between them. You don't want the state to share your assets this way. And that is why it is advisable, if you can make a will, then you can distribute your own assets the way you want it to be done before you go. I mean, after you have gone. So I'll leave it at this. There's so much to talk about. I'll leave it. I think the time is fast spent. And then if there are any questions, I can please just raise your hands. I'll be more than happy to respond to any questions that may come up. Okay, all right, Auntie Gina, can you unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
Okay, good evening.
Good evening.
Yes, sorry, mine is not about will.
Okay, that's fine.
It's different. So if you are an applicant,
yeah,
and then you brought in a dependent who is not like your husband, but then you are with the person as a husband here.
Mm-hmm.
So can you divorce the person like in Ghana and bring the certificate here, or unless you divorce the person here? And also, at what years can you do the divorce?
You mean he's not your husband, but it's like your husband here?
Yes. Exactly, yes.
Hey, Sister Gina, you are speaking in parables. So. Okay, and see, more worry and I'm wapa. And why you know, who couldn't know him send him and go yenti. Who person who go worry, my main can is okay, and see, send him and go, you know, say our relationship never break it down, of course. Who bet me, for I divorce now from Ghana. Now Ghana, we have two types of divorce, and in fact three. You were Muslims for it, you know. You were customary one and you were court divorce. Now customary one no, say for obanende. Papa ne nsa de akoma na ebusuafo sɛ aware mentena ho bio na ebusuafo na kasa yɛ gu no na ɔmo wie a na ɔmo de sɛte ɔmo akɔ court akɔ register na court no di stamp ana certificate de ama wɔn ɛno no yɛfrɛ no confirmation dissolution of marriage confirmation of dissolution of marriage. So, listen to the word confirmation of dissolution. It means that a divorce has already taken place. The court is only confirming it. And no, who the back room ha? Want to make and worry obi ewo kroma at the registry. Because enya court ne gu aware no, eye ebusuafo ne gu no ansa na court ne di stamp sisu. And no the back room ha. Confirmation of dissolution will not be acceptable. Because I will share the Family Law Act and to say, if you are in the UK for more than 1 year, you must have the divorce conducted by a court in your country or the country where it was conducted. And in this case, say our rebegua, ma omunya the court divorce. Court nankasa engu our and the court should start and finish that divorce. In that case, a certificate of divorce, not confirmation of dissolution. If you see the word confirmation, with the backroom engagement for you to marry. But if it is divorce certificate, no, it is possible to do. You don't have to go to Ghana. You can just give them the power of attorney in Ghana, and then they'll act on your behalf and do everything and send it to you.
Okay, thank you. Please, lastly, male baby, and it's a little bit difficult here to me the day Ghana. But now ebi mo ka say me visa ni bi mano and I say do ha beset ebi no say me visa ni bi mano ebi no say me ni wu a it will be of no use ebi say okwa ontumi mba biem and but I have to send him. It's in a so no. How is it like?
As for obedience, as for idea, and some will be a kind of yes, obedient bebre, and I will be so obedient society or here, obedient to men culture with their OT. Now, say what will back from her, right? Not say wouldn't coffee, not when you would indefinite leave to remain from her. Over to me, I register with Bano as a British citizen if the child is still under 18 years old. Once the child is born in the UK and after 5 years or so, you get your indefinite leave to remain, the child is still under 18 years old, you register that child under Section 1(3) of the British Nationality Act of 1981. The child will be a British citizen. The child will hold their British passport before they come back to the UK. Tinia Obi Canadian, it is not correct. Unless you don't intend to get your indefinite. If that is the case, then maybe after a year or so, no, so one this service and not it's going to be difficult for the child to come back to join you. So, if you don't have your indefinite yet, and you intend to bring the child back, then my advice is, yes, apply for the same visa that you have for the child before you take the child out, then you can bring the child back in after some time. But let's see, once you get your indefinite leave, the child can be registered as a British. They will come with their British passport to the United Kingdom.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome. And next, Boateng, sir. Mr. Boateng.
Yeah, lawyer, thank you very much. Very educative session.
Thank you.
I'm much impressed. We are learning new things in life as we grow. Please, how many people can you select or elect as your executive? Can it be more than one? Then my second question is, why the witness not more than two, but only two? If those two get to know themselves, can they go behind you and do something? But for when it's even number, I think so. I want to know more about that.
Well, yes, you can. It can be one, it can be two, it could even be more than two. But sometimes the problem is collation of information. When you pass away, for these people to come together, hold meetings, and decide, sometimes it becomes very cumbersome if the number is quite huge. So keeping it at two is quite even. Two people can. It can be three. Yes, of course, you can choose three people to be your executors to do that on your behalf. Well, you are thinking about two people colluding. Three people can still collude. If they are bad and they want to do you bad, they can still collude. But two people you trust, and that is why you choose people you trust and you believe that they can do it on your behalf. Your solicitors, your pastor, a trusted friend, your banker, these are not people who would easily give in to somebody's persuasion or to somebody's, pressure to do what they want rather than what you want. So yes, two is ideal. Three, yes, why not? But the larger the number, the more difficult it becomes for them to, do the administration, letter of administration, etc., etc., etc. Thank you.
Thank you. My last question is,
yes,
I don't have much properties now. Can I make a will? And from time to time, I update it.
I know from your voice, I can understand that, or I can conjecture that you have some property in Ghana around Akosombo, maybe around Accra, the area. You have something there. Yes, you have a piece of land there. You have some farmland at Akram Plains. Take piece of paper and put pen on it. You'll be surprised at how much you have. In any case, if you think you don't have much, still make a will for the one or two things you have. Even your trouser, your suit, your necklace, your wedding ring. You want your wedding ring to go to your son, your beloved son. Just put your pen to paper and prepare for, even if it is two things you have. Then as time goes on, you can keep amending your will as you go along. Because you will be very rich, so please prepare it now. Thank you. Mama Osabute. Okay, I'm listening to you.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Mama.
Let me show YouTube. I mean, sister beside out of the contest, like now you Okasafa when then I decided to come back to Zoom to ask my question. The question is maybe next month Obenya 3 years.
Okay.
Now my husband is EU citizen. Yeah. Now me banana onya indefinite leave to remain.
Okay.
But me wono na so since my wono wahano she qualified to be a British citizen. Yeah, application when she was denied.
Yes.
And so later on, this EU settlement scheme application letter came that I need to apply for her.
Right.
And she was granted indefinite leave to remain as well.
That's good.
But the letter no, or see, granting no the indefinite leave to remain no, but as a joining family member. So in this case, no, this means she is unable to act as a relevant sponsor under the EU appendix, whatever. A family member wishing to join, no, she's not able, to act as a relevant sponsor.
Yes.
And that's when I didn't quite understand. When I called them, though, I asked, and what the lady told me was because she did not qualify for the 5 years continuous stay. And I said, she's a child. She was born here. So getting a 5 years continuous stay, that means she's supposed to be more than 5 years, even before making this application. But the reason she gave me, I wasn't so clear on that. So maybe if you can throw more light on that for me also.
Thank you. What it means is this. Because the child was born before the father got indefinite leave to remain, the child is not a British citizen automatically.
Okay.
The father had indefinite today, and the child is born tomorrow, is automatically a British citizen. Under Section 1, Section 1, Subsection 1 of the British Nationality Act 1981. But if the child was born before the father got indefinite, the child has to be registered under Section 1, Subsection 3 of the British Nationality Act of 1981. So, the time of the birth and the time the father got indefinite, these are the two important dates.
Okay.
So let me say it again. Father got indefinite today, child is born tomorrow, child is a British automatically. All you need is passport. Child is born yesterday, father got indefinite today, child has to be registered as a British citizen. That is why that first application was fine. Now with the EU1, it is immaterial now. Now that the father has gotten the citizenship, settlement, it is irrelevant now. The child can go ahead and apply for this. You can apply for the citizenship for the child now. The child should be successful. Don't go for the British passport straight away. It will be refused. Go for the first.
To register as a citizen first.
First. They'll give you the certificate before you apply for the British passport for the child.
All right. Okay. Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Okay. It appears that questions have been responded to, and therefore there is nothing to add or subtract. And the time is 9:02. On that basis, Papa Emmanuel, Kwesi Adum Pacho, unmute and ask your question, and then maybe after that we could bring it to and then think. Go ahead, please.
All right. Hello, lawyer. Good evening.
Good evening.
Sorry for dragging you for stalling the meeting.
Okay.
I just wanted to find out. I'm a student. I just finished school for my master's, and I'm trying to figure out to get a sponsored job. I wanted to find out if TapTapSend offers sponsorships.
That's a very good question for TapTapSend. Speak to the boss, Nana Kwame, and I'm sure the other bosses, they will be more than happy to assist you. But my advice for you in this case will be that once you finish your course, please apply for the graduate route, 2 years graduate visa that enables you to be in the system whilst you are looking for sponsorship. The 2-year graduate visa, you don't need a sponsorship. You don't need any sponsor. All you need is to apply. After you've successfully completed your course, we'll give you 2 years to work with any company. During that 2 years, you can then look for a sponsor rather than waiting to look for a sponsor. Once you're out of time, it becomes difficult. Once you finish, apply for sponsor, apply for the graduate visa, 2 years. Within that 2 years, look for sponsorship. You can shift to another category. I hope.
Yeah, I'm on the graduate route visa at the moment, so I'm still searching.
Okay, that's good. Yes, in this case, speak to the coordinators of TapTap. I'm sure they will be able to advise you accordingly. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Lloyd.
Mami K. Auntie, Osabute, you still have a question? Okay. All right.
Yes.
Mommy K. All right. Mommy, Mansi Sabute, please go ahead and show Mommy K will come later.
Thank you for the opportunity. The second question is, someone said, since the dad is a EU citizen, it's appropriate for me to get her Spanish passport rather than the British one. Maybe if I get the British one first, it might affect her Spanish passport or Spanish citizenship, as the dad is a EU citizen. I don't know how true is that.
So, the thing has changed from Obi to someone and say.
Yes, I'm still talking about my daughter.
Okay, so the question is, I'm talking. Does Spain allow dual citizenship? I'm checking. Does Spain allow dual citizenship? It says here, this is from what I can get. Spanish citizenship is primarily based upon the principle of jus sanguinis, that is right of blood. Spain is a member of the European Union. Spanish citizens can travel and reside freely in any of them. Spain permits dual citizenship under limited circumstances. They permit dual citizenship under limited circumstances. Spain permits dual citizenship for all Spanish citizens by origin, so long as they are declared or they declared their will to retain the Spanish nationality within 3 years of acquiring it. Yeah, so it means that they allow it. And if they allow it, then if you're concerned, you can apply for the Spanish one first and then apply for the British one. But from what I have just read, if they allow it, apply for the British one should not have the child's ability to apply for the Spanish one.
Okay, sir. And also the British one, how much does it cost?
The registration, I think, is about £1,212 or so. And then the British passport is, I think, it's about less than £70 for children. So the passport itself is less than £70, but the registration about 1,002 or so, 1,000 something. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, here is Mami K. Sorry, I was talking, but it was muted. My question here goes back to the will.
Right.
I'm living with my spouse, and he died. Not me. He died.
Of course, you can't be dead and be talking now.
Yeah, he's on. That's why I'm saying that. Despite how much he has or whatever asset is it, won't I be entitled to, since we've been living together, rather than the 400 and something before it goes to the family and all that? When I become the sole ownership of everything?
Well, every jurisdiction has its interstate succession rules. So I was reading from the UK interstate succession rules. If you go to Ghana, it is also different. So if you are in the US or Canada, that determines how the Canadian interstate succession rules work there. So you may be entitled to $1 million or more, depending on the interstate succession rules in that jurisdiction. The UK is talking about pound sterling, and that is where it is £250,000. So you can do a bit of research on that. Are you in Canada or in the US?
Canada.
Canada, yeah. So do a bit of Googling on it. You may be entitled to $1 million or 1.5 million something. And don't forget me. Remember me, okay?
I will. Thanks.
All right. Hello. Is it Ankupong?
Yeah, Ankapong, Adrene, thank you very much. I think we've already said this about 2 minutes ago, but I didn't capture it. You captured it well. I just want to ask it again. I had my how do I say it? 5-year under the EU rule. Then 2 days after I had it, I had my first child.
Okay.
At the moment, I have indefinite or settlement.
All right.
How should I go about it?
Okay, so you got the 5 years and
yes.
your first child, right?
Yes.
Okay, so assuming the first child was born on the 12th of April, 2024, okay? I'm just giving an example.
Okay.
So the 12th of April, which is my birthday, that is when the child was born. And then you had your 5 years, let's say 2019, and the child was born in 2020. You had it 2023, and the child was born in 2024. Now, in that case, because you are not settled, you can apply for 5 years for the child as well. But once you get your indefinite leave to remain, you have to register the child as a British under Section 1, subsection 3 of the British Nationality Act of 1981. Only because the child was born when you had 5 years, not indefinite. So once you get indefinite, you go back to register the child. But if the child was born a day after you got your indefinite, that child is automatically a British citizen because you are settled on the child. So, yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. I am grateful for the opportunity. I would like us to end it here. There's no other question. God willing, next week we would be on again. Wisdom Akaho, Wise Smart Solicitors, number 8 to 9, The Prince House, Dalston Junction, London, E83DL. Telephone numbers, landline is 0208 0165 384. 0208 0165 384. Mobile number is 079 31 042. 079 31 042. Thank you all. I'm most grateful. God willing, we shall meet again next week. Have a blessed weekend. Thank you all.
Have you been to Aqua Safari lately? Let me share my experience with you at the new Aqua Safari Resort. When you arrive, you're greeted by warm smiles to Aqua Safari and introduced to your 24-hour butler who already has your itinerary sorted. Enjoy water sports activities like jet ski rides, kayaking, water sliding, flyboarding, and castnet fishing. You can even have your lunch here on the boat cruise. Experience horseback riding, tennis, and some golfing amongst a host of other activities. Let the tour guides take you through the sceneries of the Volta River, the mangrove forest, the friendliness of the animals, local and exotic birds, while you pet and feed them. You can have this large space for your conferences, corporate retreats, and so many activities as part of the package. We chose to have our breakfast with a beautiful sunrise right in front of our cabin. We had an amazing experience and I can't wait to return for more.
Visit Aqua Safari Eco Resort in Ghana, bringing you closer to nature.
Hello, this is Lawyer Wisdom of Wismart Solicitors. Join me this and every Friday on OT TV from 8 to 9 p.m. for all your UK immigration matters. I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Reminding you that this is the sound of Africa. OT Radio is live and alive. This is the time we open the hands on this. This is the newest version, of course, the greatest time of our moments now. OT Radio has come to stay. Tune in on www.otradiouk.com, and of course we have live activities more coming on politics, sports, social entertainment, and everything that you request. My name is Sanko Fatichinan, so I'm going to be part and parcel of it, and of course OT Radio has come to say this is the sound of Africa.